Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the FAA Alumni Association United States Open House. I'm going to start with the introductions, and then we'll go into where we are at in terms of goals and planning and what our accomplishments for this year. So the very first thing that I'm going to start with is introduction of the board. So I'll do mine last, but the board members that are on the call, if you can get started with your introductions, maybe Numan Bhai, if you are the only one on the call right now.
Yeah, Numan Sheikh from the 92 badge. I have been working as the treasurer of the alumni body based out of Maryland.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just do the quick introductions of other folks because I know Umar and Farah are on West Coast. They should be joining shortly. Maybe they're just finishing their work hours. So Farah is based out of Seattle. Naeem Bhai is 90 batch. He's based out of, I believe, North Carolina. And Umar Inam is based out of Los Angeles in California. He's 96 batch. The reason you see stars next to Farah and Naeem Bhai are because they were appointed after last year's open house as the board member. So the process that we followed was that the board didn't appoint somebody new. It's just like people who were already part of last elections. We just reached out to them and asked them if they would like to join the board. Because Ahmad Uzair, who used to do our webinars, he moved back to Pakistan. Similarly, at UAE, I couldn't continue as the board member. So we offered the position to Farah and Naeem. And Farah actually was elected with majority for the last election, but she didn't join the board at that time. So it was good having her back. Okay, moving on to what has been our strategy this year and what we have been planning for the next year. So obviously the strategy is to continue our annual donations and the meetups that we have had. One thing that I've been saying is let's start moving donations to more of an autopilot. I know there's always a fundraising effort required, and people want us to do more as an alumni association, but majority of the time we are stuck with fundraising and other issues. So if we can start doing that, we would focus on other initiatives, but our focus remains on annual donations because we cannot lose to have like slow down in donations because now we are reached a certain threshold. FAST expects certain donations from us, so that's that. So in addition to that, one of the things that you have been seeing is that we have been doing a lot of local meetups. There were around 8 events in Canada this year, similarly 6 or 7 in US. So I'm hoping this trend would continue. And what we have done in consultation with finance committee is that in addition to if the local chapter cannot cover the cost and it's a big chapter, we would be able to give monetary support to organize the event. But obviously the preference is that the local chapter has to take a lead to do the event. The expectation of having the board to organize an event locally doesn't work out most of the time. And the last thing that we have been focusing on is endowment fund planning. And since this year is an election year, we have been working in the background for that as well. Any questions before I move on? We will be discussing everything this in detail. I want to rush through this deck as soon as possible because it's a 33-page deck. So we'll get into details of each one of them as we go. Okay, so since last year, we added for some perks program for US as well. Employee and member discount was always there, but we added working advantage as well after our last open house. So, and I shared the details with that. The details are available on our website as well. So if you guys want to take advantage on some member-based discounts like hotels, attractions, please feel free to do that. So one of my focus based on last open house was to start more engagement with campuses. And as you guys have been seeing that I actually went to all five campuses at the end of the year, spent 2.5 months in Pakistan, trying to understand. I know we have a lens through which we view things, but then you have to go and understand how they are operating, what their local challenges are. So the purpose of my being there was to understand what the challenges of each campus are, and why are they making certain decisions, which some of us keep on talking about on WhatsApp and what, but I think it's a mix of both. The very good thing that uh, I have actually seen is that now there's a lot of respect for alumni. They have actually done one desk, or I would say, uh, like set up facilities for alumni. They're inviting alumni to the campuses as well. They're listening to the alumni. And the best part of all of this is that now some of the stakeholders are our own alumni as well. So if you see the campus of the Lahore campus director, he's an alumni. If you talk about Peshawar campus head of electrical engineering department, he's an alumni. In Islamabad, Kashif Bhai is like head of CS department. He's also an alumni. So on the campus level, we are seeing that our own alumni are coming up in leadership, and now it's more about in like it's not no longer a I would say teacher student conversation or discussion. It's more of a peer to peer conversation where they understand our feedback and try to act on it with the constraints that they have. So in addition to my visiting the campuses, I also met all the major CEOs of who are our alumni and running software houses in Pakistan. So these are some, not all, but few of them that I met, and I visited their offices. And I'm actually thankful to them for them inviting me to their uh, offices and walking me through this. And I was like really glad that our alumni are doing really well, and we are just kind of running the software industry in Pakistan. So after like these meetups, there was obviously a need to connect alumni and campus as well. So there were a few meetups which we organized, and if you see there, these are all these alumni CEOs. I'm not sure if I see Salman Bhai on the call. Like we invited Salman, Rahman, Zafar, like some alumni from US were in these meetings as well. And we tried to give candid industry feedback to the uh, like campuses. One good thing that FAST has now done, and I'm not sure all of you guys are aware of it, is that every campus now has, and in fact, every department at the campus has an industry academia setup. So they meet quarterly, and they take industry feedback and they work on that, and the updates are actually provided in the next meetup, how things are turning out. So but I'm glad that these people joined in these meetups, and the good thing was there are few people, how we are as alumni are not happy. So some people were not connected to the campus, so this helped them connect back to the campus as well. In addition to that, I met all the local chapters in uh, uh, in like so of like the local chapters who are working in the cities, and also attended two alumni homecomings. one in Faisalabad, and the other one was in Lahore. I couldn't just make it to the Islamabad alumni homecoming because of some flight delays, but I'm glad I was able to make it to the rest of them. But the alumni homecomings were great. So if you see, the very first picture is the where you see the Qawwali happening. That's Faisalabad's alumni homecoming. Then the second picture is FAS Alumni Association Islamabad. There was a meetup there. Third picture is the president of FAS Alumni Association Karachi campus. The third picture and like the last two pictures are more of alumni homecoming in Lahore. And I also met the Alumni Association president of Peshawar campus as well. They have not formalized a body yet, but there's a professor who is an OFAR batch who actually represents the Alumni Association over there. Okay, so as we were talking earlier, we did some local meetups this year as well. These meetups don't, like, all the pictures are not captured here, but we tried having some meetups, like, and we still encourage that regardless board members are there or not, please go ahead and organize the meetups and stay connected and help each other. There were 6 webinars that we did this year so far as well. We may do some more in the next month or two. We are trying to get the rector on the call. Maybe, I'm not sure if Umar Bhai has joined since I started talking. If he is not, then I'll just continue with the update. Okay, I don't see him on the bridge, so I'll just continue with the update. So we did 6 webinars, and Fahad Bhai's webinar was not recorded. So that's why it was actually attended by 90 plus attendees. So now we are trying to get the rector, who's Professor Aftab, for a chit chat with our alumni. One of the things that we like, because, and the reason we are trying to do that is that we hear a lot of things why this cannot be done. So we want you to hear directly from him what are the challenges and what he's trying to do and change those things. Moving forward, next we have, right, the slide is not this. Can you guys see this mentor-mentee program slide now?
Yes.
Okay. So we, last open house, we informed you that we are starting a mentor-mentee program. We actually took and we actually connected people who were the similar backgrounds of what they intended to do in the career. Somebody who wanted to do a postgrad here, we connected them to PhDs here. If somebody wanted to do a job at like FANG, we connected that as well. So there were 15 students linked. At the start of the year, we actually did a program review, and our like feedback or our learnings from this whole thing was that we should more of do a tiered mentoring program rather than running it directly with the campuses. And what I mean from tiered mentoring program is that the students who are studying at campuses, they generally do not know what a mentor-mentee program is. So our recommendation was that having most recent graduates should be their first tier of mentors, and then the second tier should be campus itself. And once they feel like they're brilliant students who are, who need to be exposed to, North American environment, and who really have, the will to do, or the passion to do great things, then we take them in the final tier where we mentor them, where they're serious enough. Because the feedback that we were getting from a lot of mentors was that people didn't show up to the meetings, and that's why we actually said, let's get only serious mentees in, so because so that we are not wasting everybody's time, and kind of campus agreed to that as well. In addition to that, since last open house, we have done some community partnerships. The very first picture that you see is Navera, who's our alumni as well. She's the president of Pakistani Women in Computing. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Okay, so Navera, she's the president of Pakistani Women in Computing. So we have a community partnership with them. You must have seen live events happening on our pages as well. So we are supporting them, and they are supporting us as well. And this is something that's running really well. And personally, I really care about gender diversity within the organization, and I think that's something that is helping us out. The second picture that you see is with the Open Global president. In fact, now the former Open Global president, Chaudhry. So we are working on few initiatives with them, whether it be Open Silicon Valley or Open Toronto. We are working closely with their teams as well. And then you must be seeing all the announcements that we do for Park Launch. And the California event that recently happened was organized by Umar Bhai, who's our board member, but it was in partnership with Park Launch as well. So we are a partner of Park Launch as well. So making sure that we are utilizing the maximum professional network that we have, which actually brings me to the next thing that we want to do as an organization, where we want to partner with other Pakistani alumni associations who so that we are no longer working in silos. In Canada, just for an example, we've already established a consortium of Pakistani professional associations, and UAT, NED, NASTIAN, IBA, GIKI, LAMSOL are all part of it. And the reason we felt that was that there were some temporary, like students or workers on temporary visas who came in and they were struggling with few things, and we had to engage Council General to help those alumni. And then we felt that in addition to Council General or the Consulate of Pakistan, we should have like other professional networks helping each other out as well. So while this work is like in Canada, the consortium has been established. Since I'm trying to work out, I'm already connected to GK and Nastian presidents, but we are trying to do something similar on US side as well, which I'm hoping the next team is going to continue once they take over from me. Well, so another update from last open house is that we implemented a donation management system, because some people used to say we want to set up subscriptions and pay through credit cards and everything. So that's done. And also the thing was that people are always looking for their tax receipts. So we implemented this. So and this year in 2022, we for the very first time ran tax receipts and everything out from there. Heard some good feedback there as well. So if anybody wants to have any feedback on this, let me know, else I'll just move on. But just keep in mind that all these donation platforms that we run have an admin cost to us. So I would still prefer if you can pay us through PayPal Giving Fund, Facebook, and all these other platforms which charge no fee to us. And they would actually issue your tax receipt right away as soon as you donate. So you don't have to wait for donation receipts anymore. And one of the updates that I think I've already shared in my previous update is that we would no longer be issuing duplicate tax receipts for Benevity and other matching platforms, because you like all the donors are already directly getting the tax receipts from these platforms. So we'll only be issuing tax receipts for donations directly made to us, whether through our donation management system, direct PayPal payment, or bank wire. Everything else, you will have to contact the organization where you donated and get the tax receipt from them. Okay, so now coming back to the most interesting part that we have, and which is the fundraising status. So last year, for the very first time, we broke the barrier of 100K. We raised 106K after admin costs, like which include the credit card processing fee and the like some charges that Benevity charges from us for processing the payments and everything. We were left with 102K, and we raised this from 144 donors. In 2022, our target was to just add some more to it. But so far by October 15th, we have only received 33K, and this includes matching donations from 43 donors. So we have a lot of catching up to do. And we'll come to this later part and like later part of the presentation as well, of because if you see in 2020, we had 152 donors. So I expect our number of donors to increase and not decrease, so that at least we can keep our current initiatives sustainable. Because if we don't do that, then board still has to keep focusing on fundraising and not work on other things, right? So anyways, we are still at 33K for 43 donors this year. And I'm hoping that you guys can, whoever is on the call, can pass on that message to alumni in your network and encourage them to donate. Because one of the things that, or factors that we believe that's causing this is the flood, and some people have donated to that. But in addition to that, this is also a great cause because you are supporting education, and you're just making a life for somebody by sponsoring them so that they can like become a great person in life. And so I'm just gonna stop that and discuss challenges later in the slide. So this was our fundraising that was done last year. So if you see here, we have the 106K number. We had around 4,500 platform fee, and this was the total that we received. Amount that was received against each individual project are also in front of you. And these were Canadian dollars that were converted to US dollars. And this is what we actually raised last year. So this year we wanted to be more transparent of how the allocation is done. So we reached out to a lot of folks, and I'm thankful to Atab Bhai, Maliha, Awaz Bhai, and Zohaib that actually agreed to joining the finance committee, and basically raised some really good questions, especially to Atab Bhai. And he asked really questions, some things that we should be doing, some things that we shouldn't be doing. And we decided the budget and the allocation for this year, which I'll come to later. Okay, so one thing that we recently started, and this is we actually starting with this fall semester, are batch scholarships. So there were a few batch scholarships that were running locally, but people over here said, we also want tax and benefits out of it. So we said, sure, let's start the batch scholarships for you guys. And we created these projects, which you already see live. So out of them, I think Islamabad batch 2001 really did a great job. And they actually were able to sponsor two scholarships that we are actually waiting for scholars' name right now from the campus, and we'll be fully funding them for the whole year, including tuition fee and any other fees that they may have. And similarly, Salek Tayyab, Maria Batul, they are my batchmates. Both of them passed away shortly after graduation. So we are running a scholarship in their name since 2010. So we just started a project of it on the US side and Canadian side as well. If any donors want to donate to that, we can donate to those projects. Sajid bhai, you've raised a hand if you want to unmute and ask the question.
Shall we hold the question till later, or what are you going to do?
If it's relevant to this slide, please do.
Yes.
If it's a general question, we can wait because the
My
purpose of the
question was
meeting.
relevant to this. It was relevant to this slide. As per my information and as per the donation drive we did last year, we were under the impression that the third scholarship you mentioned from the batch 1990, that was fully funded last year. So I'm surprised to see not fully funded for 2022.
Yeah, so if you see the numbers here, let me check.
So maybe I don't want to waste other people's time. So maybe
Yeah,
if you
I'll
can give me
check.
a quick
I'm
point,
pretty sure we did the
I can touch
calculation and it was not
base
funded. Yeah.
with you or someone else who's doing this, because my understanding was whatever the pledging we get, whatever the donation we get last year, so this should have been fully funded. If not, then I probably need to do some more work on it.
Correct. And Sajid bhai, I'll connect with you offline as well. So when you can talk to Naeem bhai as well. So Yusuf Shehzad scholarship, we really started literally in December 2021, right? We publicized it and we actually asked, we reached out to people that we have added all your donations in donation management system. If you want to change the project to of that, and let us know and we'll change the allocation. So we never received any update. So that's why probably. But anyways, we'll work offline with you on that one.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of budget, what we did was that now we had this money that came in 100K or whatever. The bet, and we also, as you guys know, we are growing and we don't have any membership fees implemented, and there's some operating expense as well. And as a bigger organization now, we also don't want board members taking on accounting because there's a lot of numbers that they need to work through. And we want to offload this bookkeeping and accountancy to professionals so that there's a proper audit, they're looking after numbers. So in terms of allocation, what the finance committee recommended was that we should, for endowment, whatever was raised, which plus the 4% of the actual general scholarship amount, and some money from the board discretion fund, we should allocate that to endowment. So we'll come to the endowment fund later and the strategy around it, how we're going to be actually investing money for that. So we allocated 19,000 for putting that into endowment fund. Scholarships, general scholarship, designated and badge, we are total for $65,000. And there's total R&D that like people donated into R&D money is 8,250. Events, as you said, we allocated some money from the board discretion fund for events. I already talked about it. So any chapter, big chapter who wants to do a big event and cannot cover the cost can apply for $1,000 and with the event plan, and we'll fund that chapter to organize the event. And we actually took certain percentage of the whole donation and included that into total operating expense. We might see that it will actually be lower because most of our expenditure is just paying for our website, this Zoom license that we are on, and some other organizational expenses. All the board members are pro bono, so they don't charge any money, neither do we expense anything. So this is, we expect this to be lower, but we think that majority of it would be going to bookkeeping and accountancy charges in addition to website and Zoom license. So this is our planned support for this year for all the campuses. So we have received the list from Karachi campus and Islamabad campus, but we are waiting for the list from Lahore, Faisalabad, and Peshawar campus. So this is how those $65,000 that I actually talked to you about were allocated to each campus. And then, as we talked about, two scholarships, batch scholarships that went to Islamabad campus, one went to Lahore campus. And this doesn't include the designated student sponsorship. So designated student sponsorship is if you yourself identify a candidate who's deserving, you can get an approval from the board and support that student. So there are some scholarships that are running before my time. So we are still supporting those scholars, but generally we recommend that we go with the recommendation from campuses because they know what the real academic students, real status, academic status is. So someone maybe, not providing you the real status, and then we have seen cases where somebody got a warning when they were on a designated student status. So if you see here, it says 73,250. So total is $65,000 for scholarships, and then 8,250 for R&D that we talked about earlier. So the total money that will be sending to FAST would be this. And R&D, when you talk about R&D, it can be ORIC, it can be events like SoftTech, Procom, Daira, that happen at the campuses. So they're annual events. So we support them as well, and we have supported them in the past as well.
Rafaeel, there's a question on how did we come up with the allocation breakdown?
So the allocation breakdown is basically decided by, and I already talked about, we sat with the finance committee and decided what should be the approach to allocate the funds. Should we just give to FAST and FAST distributes it, or we just work and in consultation with them to do that? So we actually receive a percentage from FAST. So in July, before the admissions, FAST said that we are doing an admission of these many students at each campuses. So every campus has their own need based on the number of students. And then the total money that we have available for general scholarship, we would multiply it with the same allocation. So if you see, if I remember on the top of my head, Faisalabad, they allocated 16%. Islamabad, they allocated, I'm assuming, 24%. Lahore campus, they allocated 34%. Similarly, same for Karachi. So the percentage, so there's all these CFD, Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore, and Peshawar, all these percentages add up to 100% of how FAST is allocating it. So based on the need, we would consult with them, do some adjustments, and allocate the money accordingly as well. And that was the process followed and agreed by the finance committee as well. Did I answer your question?
Okay, you're good.
Okay, so the next slide I'll let if Salman Bhai is on the call, or Numan Bhai, if you can cover the endowment fund and provide an update to the members on that.
All right. So for the endowment fund, the money is still sitting in our account because of the market turmoil and high fluctuation, volatility. We have decided to just stay on the sidelines. So the two people who are responsible for this are both licensed brokers, both FAST alumni. And they are the ones who we are trusting the investments with. So some formal investment procedure, what type of equities or what type of instruments you're going to invest or not, some of that detail still needs to be worked out. But because of the volatility in the market, we didn't want to risk the small amount that has been donated. So it's still sitting with us. The idea here is that with the winter approaching, fuel prices and gas prices, Ukraine war, more uncertainty is still possible in the equities market. And so we are going to wait till February to start to look at some conservative investment strategy. So this is still on hold. And once the markets stabilize a little bit, then we will jump back into it.
Okay. Any questions on that before we move?
Not questions, but my recommendation is that
I have
we
a
should.
question. I have a question. So the market is always keep moving up and down at any point in time. So if we are cautious getting into the market, what kind of surety we will have once we are in the market and the turmoil come, what will happen then? Don't we have any kind of planning for that also?
So that's part of an investment strategy. So the investment strategy right now is not formalized. And this upheaval from compared with the last 5-7 years of market
That is what I'm
stability.
trying to refer to. The market situation, no matter what, there are hundreds of other endowment funds who have been investing in the market, whether market is up or market is down. So there should be some kind of strategy for the down market also and for up market also.
Yeah, so then we don't have, okay, so no, so you're right, but someone to take on just a small amount from us and invest, so that's not, I mean, we do not have access to formal, and I shouldn't say formal, like professional run investment bankers or portfolio managers. Their fees are very high, and our amount is not something that they would entertain. So we have some kind of constraints from that standpoint as well.
Okay, but since we have some time, so maybe we should start working on strategy at least and have the strategy ready by the time we start investing them.
So that's the finance committee. Oh, go ahead, Ahmed.
Yes, that's what I would say. That yeah, we've been talking about this thing for a while. We should have our strategy by now. Sometimes even if the amounts are low, you could still invest. I mean, there is, but at least in the last few months, we should have a strategy. We should have a really how is the arrangement going to work with the other with the investment firm. All of that thing should be sorted out by now. And I also know there are there are companies that would just take $20,000, $30,000, and with a $700, $800 annual fee, they would do some investment there too. But I personally feel that this is the time to invest. I know we could be cautious, but again, we've entrusted it to you guys to say.
Malik, that is what my worry is also. So whenever the market is down, you talk to any investment specialist, they will say when market is down, that's the time for investment. And if you are sitting out of it, then we are probably losing chance and losing on some good profit also.
I have a question for the board members. If everyone is done, then I'll ask.
That's it. I am done with the discussion. So I was just trying to say that once the market is down, that's an excellent time to invest in something which will get you good returns. But I will leave it for the people we trusted. So maybe just give them pointer so that they can start thinking around on those stuff.
Thanks, Ajit bhai. So we've noted this. We'll take this, like Numan bhai represents, who's our treasury, represents us with the endowment fund committee. So Numan bhai, we've taken a note of it. So let's take this to Rahman and Salman, and we'll take it from there and see what's the time to start investing it, and when do they need the funds by, right? And Jayan, sorry, let's move to your question.
Yeah. So one of the things which I actually feel like is that if you look at your 2021 versus the 2022, you actually reached 100K plus in 2021. And I believe that might be also the driver for getting this endowment fund to move on. But in 2022, as of today, what you show is that is 33,000, or 43,000. I don't know what the number was I saw. Do we have a threshold markers where we actually believe that, okay, once because the core thought process of this alumni is actually to support those kids back home, right? So we should have a marker that, okay, after this much cutoff money, once we have actually collected, let's suppose 30, 40, 50K, then we will actually take the funds out of there for the endowment fund, rather than, even with a low budget right now, what we have collected, we still squeeze out the money for any investment. That's something which we should be looking at.
If I may,
So the process right now, it's not like we are taking the money out of the main general fund. Some people have specifically donated. We ran a small campaign. Some people specifically donated for the endowment fund, and the allocation is limited to that. So
Okay.
it's not, yeah. So I mean, and I think we will continue to do that. Whoever wants to donate into the endowment, they can just put that in as part of their donation.
Yeah, so
Got it.
Shayan, to answer your question, right? Our target to raise money is 110K across all the projects, right? So whether a person donates to endowment fund, they donate to scholarship, it's their choice, or they donate to an R&D, that's their choice how they want to donate. But as general accounting principles, we cannot allocate something like a major portion of it to something else. But if you see what I said, that we actually, after consultation with the finance committee, that we did allocate 4% of general scholarship money that we actually received, which is as the kind of the board discretion as well, because it's matching amount. So we moved that into endowment funds as well, so that if we don't need the money this year, we'll just invest it. But as you know, as soon as we finalized our budget, market started, dumping, so we couldn't invest money this year.
So in that particular regard, just one more question. Sorry to put you in that regard. So one thing is that if I invest, let's suppose $100, just to take an example, and that's going to the general scholarship program, I don't really want my budget to be mixed up with the endowment money, because I don't have the dynamics of what kind of investments is the group going to do. And I am very much peculiar about my investments. I'm very cautious on that. So what's the mechanism to control that part and let it be transparent for the folks who are actually giving the money towards a general scholarship? Because you mentioned you're going to take 4% of the general scholarship into the endowment fund. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, so this 4% of the general scholarship that is coming is not coming from the one that you donated or designated, because we get matching amounts as well, right? So we would get some money from there and send there. And lots of time we actually get donations. So for example, we get donations from our like sponsors like VisionNet, which they want to support the organization. They don't necessarily mention the project. So that's
Got
why
it.
we take liberty to saying, hey, there's no project mentioned. So we will take that some amount of money and allocate it to it. But if you want to strategize this, saying, hey, like if you want to say, oh, I just want to do the scholarship, you can just set up a subscription with just the scholarship. If you just say, I'm gonna donate $80 a month to general scholarship and $20 to endowment, you can do that too. Both the projects are available, so you can set up the subscription accordingly. But we are actually very careful that we don't mix the funds. That's why like when Sajid Bhai was earlier saying that the Batch 90 scholarship didn't go funded, we could have added a few $100s into it and funded it, but we didn't, because we didn't raise the money that was allowed. So we don't mix the funds, but then where we have some liberty of where a donor didn't mention the specific project, we would decide, because in those donation, generally the instructions are where board sees the best fit. So where board sees where most needed, right? So we would see where the allocation makes sense, and we'll allocate accordingly. Numan bhai, you want to add anything on top?
No, this is a learning process, is an evolving process. So we can use a lot of help. If you have ideas, you want to help us structure this a little bit better, then by all means, you're more than welcome to join the finance committee and help out.
Next time, who are you reaching out to volunteer? Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Let's move on. So Numan, you want to cover this slide as well, because you have been directly involved with the accountant's appointment.
Yeah, so we have signed up an accountant And so he will do our annual taxes and will also help set up a accounting process in QuickBooks so that we can run this outside of Excel and have some professional expertise available to us at our disposal to help out from time to time to make sure that we are running the organization in a structured manner. So we just signed this contract earlier this year, and Sharif Abdurrahman. So he's already a CPA for several nonprofits. He's out of Seattle, and our foundation is also based out of Seattle, legally registered in state of Washington. So we have hired him, and he will continue to help us with our accounting. And then so the engagement starts. So this is there's like we are focusing on the first task is to get the taxes out for this year, last completed year, and then we'll jump into setting up our QuickBooks environment.
Thanks,
Naman,
Naman.
a question. I have a question. So does it mean that we haven't been filing taxes?
No, no,
We
no.
have been, but when you are under 50 K of funds generated for a non-profit, for a registered non-profit, the process is actually very straightforward. You just go online, fill out a simple form, and you're done. When you
But we
go
haven't
above,
been under 50 for the last couple of years.
yeah. So last couple of years, we did this. I did 1 year, and Ahmed Malik did the other year. And we kind of started to recognize that this is getting a little bit more complicated. The details that the tax forms is asking for needs to be properly tabulated and tracked, and starting balances, and then because our fiscal year is our donation year is calendar, and our fiscal year is middle of the year, June to July. So last 2 years, we realized that this is a little bit more complex now, and we need professional help.
So with more donations that we collect, our threshold to do different types of forms changes. So it used to be less than $50,000, so it was one pager, but now it's like multiple forms. So as we are growing, so now we need some help to do this.
So have we filed 2021 yet or not?
No, not yet. It's
not yet.
so that's
But
that's
you
what
know,
he's working on
the
right now.
deadline has already been passed, so we probably will be incurring some fines now.
No,
No.
the deadline is November 15th.
November 15th. Yeah.
Okay.
So our financial year ends in June. So our financial so we'll be going to be filing for tax year 2021. So our deadline is November 15th. So that's why we actually appointed the accountant so we can get it done. And one of the things that I would
I didn't know we have a choice of picking up when our financial year starts.
No, we
I thought it was
we have it.
always
It's actually listed in the bylaws. We actually changed it in the bylaws as well. If you saw the voting, that our financial year was set up as August 1st. And then, but for the last, I think 6-7 years, they've been following the end of, I think forever they've been following the end of June. So we just changed that in the bylaws as well, if you notice.
So whatever you declare your fiscal year, IRS just gives you I think 3.5-4 months, something like that, to file your taxes.
Okay. Yeah, because most companies in US, they normally go by January 1st, the start of the financial year.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I think Microsoft goes by May to June or something like that, a weird one. So
Yeah,
Okay.
Navistar worked on
I didn't know
October.
that. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, October. Navistar worked off of October because they were traditionally an agriculture company, so they worked off an October cycle. So it's up to the company or the entity, whatever they declare their fiscal calendar.
I have a question on this accountant. Is the accountant also going to do bookkeeping for us for the fund?
Not at a transaction level, no.
Okay, so that is a little bit of a concern of mine because it would be harder.
Yeah, but because of the nature of how we collect funds from so many different channels, we pretty much will have to hire a full-time accountant to keep track of all the transactions from different sources coming in and adding them into the bookkeeping. So we're going to try and automate as much as possible. So we have some retainer hours included in the contract to help out from a month to month to balance and make sure we're doing this correctly, but not at a transaction level. Credits and debits are not going to be maintained by the accountant.
Yeah, but I do feel that it is no more than 4 hours of monthly work to do that, or 2 to 4 hours. So, I mean, theoretically, our accountant should be able to do that. But anyways,
It depends. So you will still have to provide them with a normalized kind of straightforward list of transactions, then they can do it. But since we just like any other accountant will take receipts, will take your invoices and just do your bookkeeping off of those. But for us to collect that information, put it together in a structured form and hand it to him, that's still a lot of work. So we offered it to him. We walked him through the process and we said, well, can you do the whole thing? And he was a little bit reluctant to get down to that transactional level.
I would have loved to be involved because I don't think this is a very complex thing. There have been much more complex mechanism that are there, but this isn't one of those. Anyways, we could take it offline.
So Naman, are we using any software for the bookkeeping or not?
QuickBooks for non-profits.
Sajid, we'll be actually implementing QuickBooks. We are not using QuickBooks as of yet. And as you saw in my earlier updates, that is the thing that we thought that was needed. And we actually went to finance committee with the same rationale, right? That now we are a 100K organization. We cannot keep on doing taxes ourselves and maintaining everything out of Excel. So we just need to, for the protection of our organization, we need a professional help. And that's why we are actually requesting like accountancy and bookkeeping services. So it's our experimentation that's going to start with this accountant. Let's see how that works out. And if we have to pivot, we will pivot accordingly, right?
Sure. And Naman, if you're not hiring any services, you're doing it personally, I have some experience in QuickBooks. I can help you out.
So he's on the contract for doing it for 2 years. So 2 years of data he will upload, set it up for us, create a process, and then we will see if we can maintain it. Otherwise, maybe we hire a junior accountant to do.
It seems you have the professional help available, so that's fine then.
Yes. So initial setup will be done by the accountant. And setup and 2 years of data loaded.
So Taba, yes, I will throw you a big party the day we retire that Excel. Okay, let's move on. So one thing that you might have started noticing recently is that we are going through branding changes as we separate out the organization and have 2 separate boards. So you would see one of the feedback that we were getting from a lot of people who were either moving to Vancouver or some other areas was that they were trying to engage with FAA and they said, and we couldn't help them out as FAA. We said, go to FAST Alumni Canada. So the name was confusing few people. So as we set up 2 separate organizations to function, we will be naming FANA into FAST Alumni Association United States, and then there would be FAST Alumni Canada. So you would start seeing this branding changes. And as you see in my deck as well today, we have the new logo updated as well. Okay, moving on. Local chapters, there's always, I think Adnan Bhai asked the same question today, like how, so are all the local chapters are actually available on the website. You can contact one of the admins. If you don't see a local chapter there, please feel free to set up one. There's no formalities involved. So we encourage you to create a chapter, be an admin, organize local meetups, and whatever support that's required from the board, please do reach out. So I think there's a lot of discussion around bylaw changes. So when people are not able to, comprehend why we changed it, what was changed. So the reason we wanted bylaw changes were that we wanted to simplify things for the election commissioner to conduct the next set of elections. So the material changes that we have not touched anything that is of, like that's not required to be changed. We have done minimal modifications as possible that are required to run the organization. So most of the changes that you see are actually listed. And I think one of the things is not mentioned here, which Sajid pointed out, was the financial year. We changed the financial year officially in the bylaws as well. But earlier there were references in the bylaws that only Washington state officials can hold the office and they have to resign if they move out of Washington state. So we have not been implementing that, but it was necessary that, while during the nomination process, some people don't nominate their name because when they see that clause, they're like, they're not nominating their name. So we just wanted to officially change that so that all the US residents can run for the elections. Similarly, since Rehan Bhai founded the organization, there's still some assets that are managed by him. He's still the custodian of our bank account. So while he has given authority to our treasury, every time there's an issue, he has to be at the front line to face that. Similarly, he at the time our PayPal account was created, there were no business accounts, so the initial account was under his name, though it has been converted to like a FAST Alumni Association account. But every time we are locked out or anything else, then we have to reach out to Rehan Bhai to actually help us out there. So we want, and he's also gets all the notices. He's still his home address is still the address of FANA. So we wanted to give him some protection as well in that, so that as he's responsible to IRS and everybody. So we added some additional founder reference there so that he is managing the association with the board. And the definition of voting membership. So there were references of $5 membership fee, which FANA never implemented it to run the operations and operating expenses. Since this was not being implemented, we have removed the definition of voting membership. And then there were some Islamic references that, when any issues would be handled. So since we want to make this as all-inclusive organization and diverse organization, so we removed those references as well. Now, board did its best to actually upload the draft for the voting members review earlier. We reached out to around 285 former, even who were not even the current voting members, and the former voting members to cast their vote. The initial email open rate was 51%. The reminder email that we sent out, 40% people opened it. We only received ballots by the deadline from 19 folks, and everybody voted in the favor for the bylaw changes. I think at this time, the board has done their full due diligence and made maximum effort to reach out to the voting members. So I would like to move forward the motion to adopt the bylaw changes as of today. Can somebody second that motion?
I have a question before you go for the motion. There were some changes proposed in the core group, WhatsApp core group. Did the board look into it or adopted those changes, or those will be done in next revision then?
There was only one change that we agreed to, that is appendix, because appendix was mentioned as appendix I, and there's no appendix I, so I believe. So there's only one appendix. So we said that we'll change, the reference of the appendix will be modified. So when we'll post that, we'll change the appendix reference, because there's only one appendix there.
I remember I also proposed a change, so you didn't look into that?
No, because we couldn't make the changes once the draft was already sent out for review. And we can discuss those changes here, but then I don't have all the voting members here to actually vote on the changes.
Perhaps we'll take it for the next
Iteration,
Okay.
yeah.
next round. Yeah.
Okay. I
Okay.
second the motion.
Okay, so if there are no concerns from anybody, we'll adopt the motions, and congratulations, we have modified our bylaws after a while, and everybody can run for the election. And with this, I also announced that we've appointed the election commissioner for the elections, who is on the call as well, Ahmed Malik. We just had a discussion internally with the board who might be the right candidate to host the elections. So it was agreed upon with his name. And thank you, Ahmed Bhai, for accepting to conduct elections on both sides of the border. So there would be first elections of FAST Alumni Canada as well. And then there would be elections for FAST Alumni Association US next month. So while we are at Ahmed Bhai, you want to cover this slide?
Yeah. On a lighter note, I would prefer if I'm called the establishment rather than the election commission. Anyways, that's just my way of getting into my part of the presentation. So elections are going to be held basically in the month of November. And the deadline for becoming a voting member or becoming a member to be eligible for to be part of the board is October 31st. So only a few more days left. So you can become a member by doing at least $50 of donations. If you have done it in 21 and 22, we'll count both of those as you're a member there. So I think this is doable, and we'll have a good participation here.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna move to the next set, and so that we can go and get into the more feedback kind of a discussion and wrapping it up. So challenges that we continue to face are that we have limited volunteers for many great ideas. One of the things that I've experienced within the last 1.5 years or 2 years is that like even we are reaching out to some alumni here to provide like to join a committee. We are not like our initial set of people always decline because they're too busy, and then we if we want to run these committees and want additional input and volunteers, we need engagement. So and with that, we also have this challenge that, you know, if we don't have additional volunteers, then board itself is just focused on fundraising, issuing tax receipts, and managing the whole thing. So now as you've seen in my earlier part of the presentation, we want to focus on other things. We want to focus on networking. We want to focus on collaborative approach, working with others, do other initiatives, and less focus on like, not I'm going to say less focus, but we want to kind of move fundraising to an autopilot where we have sustainable donations, and board is not spending a lot of time just doing fundraising. So those are our main challenges right now that we have seen, and then that's why I'm gonna just now open the floor for the alumni feedback. Anything that you want to share with us. One of the things that I just wanted to say was it was great serving the Alumni Association in the last 2 years as board member. I tried my best to do as much as I can. I know I've been harsh on some board members as well, but I apologize for anything said or done. Just everything was in the best interest of the organization. And I'm hoping that the new team that gets elected would continue and take the organization to the next level. And with that, I'm just going to open up the floor for alumni feedback and how can you help.
So one thing I just want to suggest as a feedback as well is 1 hour, 18 minutes was this meeting, and we had only 13 and the peak went to like 19, and then people started dropping. Not that taking away the fact that you did a fabulous job, trust me, of putting up this together. It takes a lot which one should actually appreciate that, because I understand the fact that none of you, being the board member, actually gets anything out of it. You have your job, you have your life, but still you are doing it. Kudos to you guys. But I think in order to grab more folks out of that 200 plus WhatsApp group, where we have a much more larger chit chat about something really different than this topic, we could actually start bringing in a quarterly report being released on the funds, how those are being allocated, and then make this meeting as a 30-minute meeting, and then just go on a very high level, and then keep it as first 15 minutes for presenting the achievements, the new upcomings, and then what we have released, and the next 15 minutes for the question. This would actually uh, encourage people to just come for the fact of 30 minutes at least. That's just my 2 cents.
Agreed. So Cheyenne, we know that this is where, people don't have enough time, but we have to do this as an annual kind of an AGM kind of a meeting, and this is generally set for 2 hours. So anybody who's signing up knows that they're signing up for 1.5 hours or more. We agreed. So in the past, we did open up board meetings, like all the board meetings are open. I know that when Ahmad Bhai was running the board, all the board meetings were open. There were some instances where some people would join, but even if you do it on regular monthly basis as well, we haven't seen a lot of participation in that as well. So doing on an annual basis at least ensures that a lot of people would attend together. If we just keep on doing on quarterly or doing on like one every month, we don't expect that it would actually increase a lot of attendance. But on the other side, in terms of numbers, we are actually more than 2,000 people in US. So people want us to do greater things. But if you see other organizations like NED, they have like 60 volunteers to do their convention, right? Which we don't have, right? We are literally with 2 or 3 active board members who are working on these things. So I think if we need to do greater things, focus on other stuff, then we just need more participation, and we need to just check that yes, we have 300 people on the group maybe, but why the other 1,700 are not engaged. And
No,
try making sure that they start getting engaged.
I completely understand what you're saying. My suggestion was not to do a quarterly meeting, a quarterly email for the funds, how the allocation have been done. So this way we don't really have a big fun discussions on an annual perspective. Just trying to reduce the size of the call itself to encourage. So because as you just mentioned yourself, 2,000 alumni, out of the 2,000, 230 on that WhatsApp group, and still on this meeting, 13 people at least to stay right now. And out of the 13, 3 to 4 members are the ones who are actually part of the board. So
Yep.
I think that's something alarming in my opinion. And I think I agree to one of the suggestions that we have to put this together with an incentive, and that incentive can be as simple as a training or as simple as some sort of a coupon.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and I
so
think
sorry. This
go
is
ahead.
Sarah. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, the budget meetings are great, and it's great that you're showing everybody accountability. That's awesome. But to pair this with raising funds, that doesn't usually work out, So we could just give a training, and at the end of the training, or people could even sign up for training who have paid on the website. And I'm sure a lot of alumni will come up and they'll be like, okay, I can give this training or I can give that training, and just half an hour training. And that way you'll be able to raise your funds faster, right?
Sure. So we would love these ideas, I'm not saying we are like all ideas are great ideas. And I'll share with you some few things as well. That as the year end approaches, and when somebody sends a board member sends somebody a WhatsApp, the other person doesn't respond, knowing that they're gonna be doing a fundraising effort from from them. Secondly, we have seen that when we send, and Cheyenne, just looping it back on the thing that you're saying, that we should be giving more periodic fundraising updates and like more frequent fundraising requests. What we have seen in the past year is that when we start sending fundraising emails, there is people unsubscribe from our mailing list, and then we just lose the connection altogether with reaching out to them, because we then cannot resubscribe them because they have already unsubscribed themselves from the mailing list. So those are those are the things that we are actually cognizant of when we are doing any sort of communication, that would constant bugging anybody. They would just say, okay, I don't want these emails, and then in that process they would just lose the whole connection, because then we won't be able to give them any general update as well. But I think the idea from Sarah is nice. I think we just need to like add more people into the core team. So Sarah, we actually have a core team, a group where people outside the board members are there in that. I think Sajid Bhai is there as well, where we share the ideas and encourage local chapter leads to actually do that themselves during the meetups. So that was the whole idea of the core team group, that local group leads can actually do that. But I think we still need to do a better job and maybe provide a toolkit or enough data to them to start raising more money.
I think one suggestion would be that I understand the fact that people don't really like spamming of the emails. That's true on that regard. But if we have to actually start collecting funds, is there a way that we can actually take a personal story of those kids who actually get the fund use for their studies, and have that group of people fund being attached to that one single person, and one of that group of people uh, putting the fund towards that kid becomes the mentor as well. That would actually groom that kid much better, not just in the financial aspects perspective, and as well as having a story about the kid will actually add a value towards one own self, that how much more he has to actually do. If we all have been blessed with Allah enough that if we can actually do that.
So
And
2 years
another
ago, we
suggestion,
regularly, 2 years ago, we regularly did that, and it did have an impact. Every time the request went out with a specific story, anonymous, of course, then funds poured in. And we have been trying different things to keep this as a non-invasive as possible, and still get to certain financial thresholds, donation collection, and we will continue to do that. But I have a larger question. I would really like the people who are present here to talk to your friends and ask them, what is the reasoning for lack of participation? At a community level, we are actually a great community, always there to help out somebody needing a job, somebody needing a place to stay. Like help pours in immediately from the local area, contact me, I'll take care of this. We are a phenomenal community. But when it comes to alumni organization and coordinating efforts to help the campuses back home, we have not been able to get any excitement going. And I have not seen this with other universities, so I don't know what is it that we are doing wrong. And we have tried, like just like some of the ideas came up. Every year, these similar ideas come up, and we do give them a try, but the bottom line impact is still dismal, and I it baffles me. So I would really appreciate if you guys can talk to some of your friends. Hey, why don't you attend? Why don't you participate? What do you don't like about it? What would you rather see? And give us that feedback, and we'll try to get better at this.
Numan bhai, I'll give you a quick update on that. I just did that actually. I just did of a group of 25 Bastions group, separate group from the Karachi campus. I just posted over there and I asked, why don't you guys join in? The first blunt statement came in is that the 2 hours thing, who is going to join in? Second, about the question on the fund part, that why one is not funding towards back to the university, and then there are still, I see people funding towards multiple different donation boxes of fund, of flood victims and all that, which is good at the same end. I think the dynamics of providing a story is what I think I think it's belongs to 90% of the ethics, that we will only come towards the part when we actually get to know the story back, because ultimately people still believe that FAST being the university where the price point is way higher than NAD or any other UET or other universities, it becomes the category of the university where the privilege gets much more in the university campus. So that's one of the key things. So a story has to be there for the funds to come in, and outreach is the second thing. So we have to start building up the outreach within our own groups and promote that, and events, actually doing not a local chapter event. Like I would suggest Ahmed Bhai, that Ahmed Bhai, if you are up for it, we should actually go for a larger event, something on the Thanksgiving, and then invite everyone across the US or Canada and work around with some hotels that, okay, have a discount perspective. These are the initiatives which are actually going to bring more traffic to the group. That's my 2 cents. And I'm not saying that you guys are
Yeah.
not doing it, you must be doing it.
So Cheyenne, let me answer that. So we did try doing this, and I was the major complainer about it because I was not the board member because I said there's no benefit for the Canadian. So we launched the like 6 or 7 benefit for Canadian alumni, right? Whether it be phone discounts, whether it be insurance discounts. So everybody signed up for that. So we have 250 people who have signed up for those discounts, but we only have 8 voting members in Canada, right? So the involvement just there is to get something out as like this. I think this is more of a national issue, getting something out and not contributing back. But I think the idea, so and coming to the stories part, right? So I'll tell you what the issue with the stories is. So FAST has this thing of, um, so if you see, LUMS is very centralized in it. They have a whole department. They would make videos with Syed Babar Ali, National Outreach Program. They would send those out as well. But FAST deliberately doesn't tell you about all the things. And I don't agree that that people who are studying at FAST are privileged. FAST still has the lowest fee in private institutions. Like we are still, like if we talk about doing a bachelor's at FAST, you are still paying like 10 lakh. And if you're doing a bachelor's from any other university, you are paying around 50 lakh or so, right?
You're
So it's like
comparing
5
to
times. So
you're
now
comparing to NAD and UETs?
so the NEDs and UEDs, the problem is those are government funded, right? So and they and just don't get me wrong, NED and UED, those guys are actually funding, the alumni is funding scholarships as well. So
Correct.
if you see the UET and NED alumni, they raise big amounts as well, and they fund the university as well. Now the challenge with the stories is, so, and this would actually going to change in the short, like very shortly. So what we have done now is that for FAST, when FAST shares the list with us, they said that outside the board, you cannot share these stories with their name because we don't want these kids exposed with their names to general public, right? That they were actually sponsored by us and everything. But FAST actually gives like, we are only contributing less than 5% to the total scholarships. FAST itself is giving way more, and they never publicize themselves as well. But what we have done is with the batch scholarships, one of the requirements that is there for the batch scholarships is that you have to have consent from the person who is taking the batch scholarship to agree to sharing their story. So once, and I'm hopeful that when these guys graduate, you would have some stories that you can share of how the scholarship helped them graduate. We do have the stories. Whenever we get the list from the campuses, there is some background provided to us. We can share it with the group of people that we have, if we have to, but we just can't make that public on social or anywhere else, right?
Yeah, but Rafael, I think the real issue, actually, it wasn't, it was a great idea and it was generating a lot of funds. The real issue was to have somebody at the board or a volunteer to help get those stories, even anonymously, to publish it. So there
Yeah.
was that effort piece. I just feel that you mashallah have done a lot of things, but the board is stretched. I mean, I'm not sure if like everybody is able to contribute, or are there more volunteers coming to this thing? So I think the biggest challenge is how do we engage people to come and help? And I feel that if there are, if somebody said, okay, how does a movement start? There's only one person, and then if there are 7 dedicated people, then people would follow those 7, and then it would start. We have yet to reach that mass of just 7 very dedicated people that would help us, catapult to a next level, as they say. So, inshallah, I mean, we're
This is
not losing
Sajid.
hope. Yeah.
Ahmed, this is Sajid. Based on my experience, whenever I try to reach out to people, it always helps if you're already connected to the people you're asking the money. So I would say the board energy will be better spent if they concentrate on the chapter heads and the batch representative. If they can make a connection with those people and delegate the task to those people, so they in turn reach out to the further bigger, larger group in the local chapter and in their respective batch, you probably have a much better chance of getting positive feedback and more funds from them. Because when someone reach out to you and you know them, it is you have a much better chance of getting them engaged and getting funds from them.
Sajid, I think my comment on that would be, I think when I realize about funds, right? Let's put funds on the side, right? I think we are talking about core engagement right now with the Alumni Association. And if you can donate your time, skills, effort, you are a donor for me, right? It's just not, it doesn't have to be a financial donation. But the thing that the challenging piece that we are finding is that people are not even willing to, donate their skills, time to do. So for example, if you go right now to NED USA, you would find like there's 65 volunteers working in different committees. So if we can have the similar sort of things that we are not asking for money, we're more asking to help the organization grow. And as that happens, the fund, we would have additional set of donors and funds would automatically come.
That is what I exactly suggested. If the board concentrate on getting engagement from the local chapter, someone leading those local chapters and someone leading the individual batches, I will say that you will have a much better chance of getting more engagement and more funds also. Both purpose will be served there.
And I think I'll just to add to that, मैं यहाँ पे काफी as a non-profits में इसमें काम करता हूँ. I don't think there's any excuse in terms of कि हम लोग contribute नहीं कर रहे अपनी alumni में, because all of us are connected with NEDs and KUs इनकी है, और हम लोग देखते हैं कि उनके alumni are very active, and we do actually feel थोड़ा सा वो होती है, rush आता है कि यार ये लोग बड़े connected है, हम लोग नहीं है. And I've reached out to older Fastians जो हमारे senior होते हैं, just Saqib in Bay Area. I just saw on our website कि Saqib, I know Saqib, and I reached out to him कि यार मुझे WhatsApp group में add करो. And at the end of the day, if you see masjids, if you see non-profits, any non-profits, typically in a community, it's only 10% who are active. There maybe 10 से भी कम होते हैं, 5 to 10% are leaders, and rest of them are followers, right? At the end of the day. So what we have to do at the end कि हमें ना वो leaders को करना है, and leaders can identify other leaders कि वो आप eventually people will burn out. I mean, like आप लोग कितने अरसे से कर रहे हैं, you'll start burning out, आपको reception नहीं मिला. I like what Sajid bhai's idea is कि at the end of the day, मैंने अभी सलमान को जानता था, I reached out to Salman Jamali, who joined a bit. मैंने कहा सलमान फास्ट का ओपन हाउस हो रहा है, why are you not on the call? So at the end of the day, if Saqib had reached out to me, who was a local Bay Area chapter lead, I would have joined as an, even though अगर मैं वो होता मुझे थोड़ी वो होती कि because there is a first level connection, उसमें हम लोग आएंगे. तो I think we need to just focus as a board, you need to focus on the local chapters, because इसमें local chapters में there can be more relationships at the end of the day. हम लोग मिल सकते हैं, कोई क्रिकेट का मैच हो गया, कुछ भी हो गया, we can meet up, there'll be relationships, first level relationships which will be made, and then people come because of that. फिर हम थोड़ा सा एक दूसरे को नज भी कर सकते हैं कि यार तुम ये कर लो, या let's do this in the local way, या हम लोग local funds raise कर लें. तो I like Sajid bhai's idea and I'm willing to, as मेरा and I think कौन पूछ रहा था पहले कि ये हम लोग क्यों नहीं कर पा रहे. Honestly मुझे ग्रेजुएट हो गए 18 साल हो गए, आप लोगों को माशाल्लाह थोड़े सीनियर भी हैं, कुछ जूनियर्स भी हैं. There was nothing there, and then when I came to the US, कुछ ज्यादा था नहीं, या था तो एक I think LinkedIn group था. तो I think हम लोग थोड़े से वो हो गए, फ्लो हो गए, कनेक्शन थोड़ा वीक हो गया है फास्ट. तो I think थोड़ा सा अगर ये लोग, especially in the last year and a half, I really want to give kudos to all of you guys कि जो LinkedIn में वो आई है. There's a lot of branding. अब थोड़ा सा वापस फील हो रहा है कि माशाल्लाह we are doing things. Last year जो donor आप लोगों ने raise किया है, so hopefully we can get the spark going with वो जो कह रहे हैं Magic 7. We can identify the Magic 7. I'm willing to do a few things, लेकिन मैं भी अभी ऐसा होता है ना, लोग के 2-3 Boy Scouts और इसमें volunteer कर रहा हूँ. तो we just have to prioritize and give our time to fast, inshallah.
Yeah, and I think the other comment that I would like to make, and I think we have made in the past, is that fast like challenging piece or alumni engagement ka piece thoda sa ye bhi hai ki people, like we have 5 campuses, right? So there's some Karachi campus, Lahore campus, and people who are close by, they interact, but then if somebody is from Lahore campus or Karachi campus, they're like, they cannot relate to the same story, right? If Shayan comes to me and starts talking about Madam Hasina Khatun, probably I can relate to it because I know her and I know Karachi campus well. But on the other side, if he's talking to somebody who doesn't know the Karachi campus, then he cannot relate to that. But on the flip side, I think that is our biggest strength, because the diversity that it brings, the 5 campuses and the people from all across Pakistan, I think we have that advantage that we can actually utilize and engage well, and be together. So I think that's another challenge that what I have faced, or I have actually seen over the period as well. But all of these are good comments. These are being documented as part of the open house. This open house actually would be posted on our website and the YouTube channel. The next board members can view it as well, of what was discussed here. We'll provide our feedback as we transition as well. As you guys are aware, I'm not gonna be there. I tried my best to do whatever I can in the time that I had, but I'm hoping I would still be like any help that I could provide offline to anybody here. I would always be there, but I hope that the next board would take these suggestions and start working on it, and start working with more chapter leads, local chapters, and start the engagement going.
Yeah. Rafaeel, I'd like to thank you for being able to run these 2 boards, Canada and US. And really, you have accomplished a lot with the board here. I would still recommend that at least you should run for a second term, if not in the US, but since you're in Canada, at least for the Canadian board there, so that there is some continuity. I'd love for people to continue for 2 terms at least here, so that there is some continuity. But I understand that it's very hard to run 2 boards at the same time, and we really appreciate what
actually was part of third. I actually left another one in this year in 2022. I was actually part of 3 boards. So I just apologize not continuing on that third board. But Canada, as I said on the message the other day, you guys have seen that on the WhatsApp, is I personally don't like running it for the second term, because I feel like the new people should come in with new ideas. My ideal recommendation would be that half of the board members kind of stay the same, some new board members come in, so there's continuity. So let's see what the nomination comes in from the Canadian chapters. Seems like we don't have a lot of actual voting members there as well. So let's see what the nominations are. If we have really good nominations, I would like to give some new people chance. If we don't have enough nominations and there's nobody, I would try. We'll evaluate, and I'll evaluate that request, and we'll go from there. So
Very good. Any other thing? I think this is the end of it, right?
okay, thanks everyone
you
for
very
your
much.
time, and have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.